Hey everyone, welcome to episode 4 and the first interview episode of the Creating with Impact podcast. This one I'm super excited for. Alice and I are going to talk about kind of what the natural world and music and yoga have to teach us, and also kind of what they teach us about processing trauma and emotions in our body as well. So excuse my voice. I'm kind of getting over a little flu, little bug, but I'm really excited for this interview, and thank you guys so much for listening. Here on the Creating with Impact podcast, we focus on all things related to being a multi-passionate creative, along with the focus on mental health that can and should come along with that. We'll explore what it means to us to live happy, healthy lives when our creative minds encounter chaotic obstacles, and how to find your rhythm when life throws you off balance. I'll give you some tips and tricks that I learned from my own experiences, and also talk with people from all over to find out what helped them find their purpose and passion, and to find their own kind of success and happiness in their daily lives. Together we can make a happier, healthier, more creative world.
My name is Alice Seitzer, and I am a musician and a therapist, also a yoga teacher, and I like to weave all three of those things together. So I play the fiddle and the mandolin. Working on the mandolin, it's a freshie for me. And I'm a wilderness therapist, so there's a lot to that, but with wilderness therapy, it's basically like we use the wild in therapy. So that could be from using a pet therapy to being out backpacking in the wilderness, anywhere in between. And then the yoga part, I teach private yoga clients, and I also teach live music yoga, and I incorporate a musician with me.
That's like super awesome. I feel like the live music yoga classes, like I've done a couple of them, and they're always so cool. And it's cool to see how music can kind of support the yoga class. I know there's like some yoga teachers who like don't use it, but I feel like it's a really good thing, especially for people that are new to yoga. It gives their brain something to anchor onto, so they're not just getting like distracted. I feel like I get distracted really easily. So
No, it's so true.
Yeah.
And like I like to think about those classes as it's like you're creating an organism together, kind of like how we talk about the organism of music, and it's whatever energy is brought by whoever is there is how the class is created, and then the musician is just improvising, and it's all created together.
It's so
supporting.
cool. So kind of on that topic, what, if any, what similarities do you kind of see between the music world and the yoga world, and maybe even just nature in general? Because I feel like the people that I know that like those things tend to like all of them.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good point. It's so true.
So I feel like there has to be some sort of like similarities between them that kind of attracts different types of people.
Absolutely. That's a really good point, and that is so true. Yeah, I think the similarity is something of the ethereal, maybe. It's like a spiritual thing, but also I believe that, just from this point of view, I believe that all of those things take a lot of creativity in them. And yoga, it's a different kind of creativity. Music is a different kind of creativity, and so is therapy. But it's all like that creative energy that we are born with. And, that's where I think a lot of like depression, anxiety, long list of diagnoses, but I think that's where a lot of it comes from, is pent up creative energy that turns into like, what the fuck? Like, what do I do with myself right now? And like, I think all those give you an avenue in which to put that creative energy and express it to the world.
That's a really, really good point. I never thought of it like that. That's really cool. I feel like a lot of the times, like especially with anxiety, and depression, it's just kind of you, at least from my experience, you kind of have like all these thoughts, and you're just like overthinking, and you're like, but like maybe it's something that you want to do, or you feel like you're not doing enough or something like that, and then it just...
Are you inside my head right now? No. Yeah, I very much relate to all those thoughts, and I think a lot of people do. And it's like, if we can isolate, this is what I do a lot with my clients on like all of those levels. And sometimes I feel like I am the client when it comes to music, because it's like I'm newer at that and I'm not as experienced. So I often feel like a little toddler, or like Eddie told me this thing, or he sent me something on Instagram that was like David Bowie saying like, you want to be in the place where your toes are just like barely touching the bottom of the, ocean or river, lake or whatever, but just barely. So you're comfortable, but you're still like kind of like,
yeah, still like a little uncomfortable. It's like all about the balance.
It is, yeah, but I strayed off a little bit there.
Oh no, you're good. I feel like straying off is definitely going to be a thing on this podcast.
Yeah.
Which is always good. I kind of like the straying off thing.
Yeah. Oh, but with the anxiety piece, though, yeah, you were saying that makes sense. Anxiety is an energy of intensity, right? Like we can compare it to the element of like air and fire sometimes. And it's like it needs somewhere to go and something to do. And that's why it's like if we can put that into music or do some yoga to help like get it out and calm it down.
Move it through.
Exactly. Get outside.
Yeah. Fresh air I feel like does everybody good. Even if it's just, walking around.
Yeah, or standing outside for a second.
Yeah. Oh yeah, have you tried that like thing called grounding where you just stand outside in like the grass barefoot and just it's amazing.
It totally works.
It does.
And I'll take that a step further, simplify it more. Okay, so that's ideal, right? If we can go out and do that, take our shoes off, get our feet in the dirt. That's if earth is a representation of mother and ground and safety, oh my God, think about how good that is for everything. But something even simpler that my mentor taught me from Colorado is if you're inside for whatever reason, just sit on the floor.
Nice.
And you get closer to the ground. So it's like we can do it in any moment unless we're like driving.
That's awesome.
Don't sit on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So I guess backing up a little bit, I totally like skipped over this, but I guess what brought you to those passions in the first place, whether it's music or yoga or therapy or like all of them?
Yeah. Well, I think they're deeply intertwined, and it's so interesting to think about how music is intersecting with these, because like I said, it's like it's the one that I have the most emotional turmoil about at this point in my life. The other, like yoga, and I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, yoga and therapy, I feel very confident. And of course, there's room to grow and create and all of that, but like I feel like I'm flailing with music sometimes. I'm just like, oh my God, what am I doing? But it's exciting, right? We always need something like that in our lives. We can't just be like, I know.
Yeah. I know all.
Yeah. But to tell you, I started playing fiddle when I was 7.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I played a couple instruments through my life, but my parents were classically trained. And there's a level of rigidity that comes with the class. Not all, but in my experience, I'll say. And I got to kind of work through, now we'll talk about a therapeutic lens with this, work through that trauma of being in like this rigid place where perfectionism was expected. When music is like, what the fuck? Music is not about perfection, right? Yeah. It's about like feeling and listening. But yeah, so I think they all interwove. But yeah, so I would say, if I'm going to answer your question completely, I had my own struggles growing up with trauma, with addictions, with stuff like that, and that brought me to, it's like I feel like that wounded healer archetype is everywhere, right? We hear that a lot. And it's like if you are forced to master something you're not good at, such as like I didn't know how to live life, I was like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. So I had to master coping with existence. And then it's like, oh, now I can teach it, so I'll become a therapist, you know? And like, master coping with existence, please. We are doing that every day, but like in my own way, right? In that moment.
For sure.
So,
for sure. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of cool in a way, because I feel like your own experience lets you have like a level of empathy with other people and like with your clients too, where it's like you can understand kind of where they're at. And of course, like everybody's experience is different, but it does give you, I think, that higher level of understanding for sure. So kind of on actually the therapy route, do you mind explaining for people that might not know kind of what the differences would be between wilderness therapy as opposed to like a more conventional approach?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. So there's so many different ways to do therapy and to experience therapy. And what has been really widely spread in our society was talk therapy, right? Psychotherapy. And we've actually found that we store different traumas or experiences that are unbearable and get stuck in our body and brain in our body. Like we need, okay, so I'm going to quote Peter Levine, who's a somatic experiencing practitioner. And it's like, if you look at how animals, now we're in the wilderness and the natural world, right? So let's bring that in. But if you look at how animals like shake off an attack. So say an antelope is getting chased by a lion, they shake. I forget what the name of it is, but they do this thing called shaking. You can find a lot of cool stuff on this YouTube, Peter Levine. But they shake to get rid of it. So why aren't we using our bodies to process trauma? So that's what I've gotten trained in a lot. And then it's like when you bring it to the natural world and you, like some of the things I'll do is sometimes I'll have clients talk to trees. Like say I send them on a little quest and we're walking through the woods together, and you'll know what a quest is, audience and Jen, once I start talking about this a little more. Maybe not completely, but you know. So we're walking through the woods and like the mission is to figure out, you know, do I stay or do I move away, right? Like say they're struggling with a decision. And I'm like, okay, ask the natural world. So it can get like that. It's a little more nuanced sometimes, but it depends on the person, right?
That's
and the
true.
relationship with the natural world. So it's a big question. But it's, I would say, to simplify, it's more experiential. It's about the here and now. It's about the body and the interaction with nature.
That makes so much sense. And I feel like that's interesting that you brought up the animal thing, because that's true. I feel like a lot of times humans, we hold on to stuff. It's when we go through something traumatic, at least in like my own experience, it's not something that you want to like immediately, I don't know, process and get through. Because I guess it depends on the person, but for me, I was like I would hold on to things for so long, and it's like you don't realize that you're not allowing yourself to like process it, and it's only hurting you, really.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's really cool that like animals kind of just...
Yeah.
They like innately know, like, okay, like, ugh, like, let me just get rid of that.
You can like, they have videos of this too. And it's like,
that's so crazy.
Oh my God, let's open our eyes and pay attention. The animals are teaching us how to process trauma, because trauma is a buzzword now. And I don't like that, because we all go through trauma and we're all supposed to, but it's how we process it. And there's some trauma that no one is ever supposed to go through.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like, we're all supposed to experience ruptures in our lives, right? But it's like how we process it. You know, look at a toddler screaming in the grocery store, having a tantrum. They're not going to hold on to that trauma.
Yeah, yep.
They're shaking.
Exactly.
They're working it through their bodies.
Yeah.
They have a lot to teach us too, you know.
Definitely. So that kind of actually goes into my next question. So we kind of talked about a little bit some of the things that you can learn from nature, like especially with just processing things. What are some of the things that you've learned from your music and yoga practice?
I mean, so much. And it intersects with nature a lot, actually. But music is my biggest teacher right now. And like I was saying, it's uncomfortable, but I am in love with music as well. Like, it is a freaking love affair. And it's also a way to connect with other people. It's a way to really listen. And I would say yoga is also a way to really listen, you know, because it's more about listening than anything else. With the instrument, it's listening to, like, what note belongs next, what space belongs next, you know? What does my fiddle want to play right now? What is the consciousness of the room? What does my body feel? Oh, my shoulders are tight, you know? Relax. And then with yoga, it's like, what does my body need right now? Does it need to move a little bit, or does it need child's pose? And like, what is the energy of the room? You know, like, it's all so related. energy, honestly. But I've learned how to slow down, how to listen.
Yeah.
Humility. Oh my God, I feel like I said, like my feet come off the
Yeah.
bottom more than I would say, but
Yeah, definitely. So what I guess advice would you have for people just like in their daily lives if they're feeling like anxious or overwhelmed or even depressed or any of those things that I feel like we tend to avoid trying to feel. But what advice would you have for people just that they can do in their normal daily lives?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, like find a way to create love and safety and support around you. If that is like in a grander scale, like getting your social support system around you, making sure like you have the things, or just putting your hand on your heart. Because sometimes when we're depressed, I could give you a long list, like do this yoga posture, do this and this, but sometimes when we're depressed, like somebody telling us to do a bunch of shit just like feels so overwhelming and like, you know, but I mean, if you're feeling motivated, yoga, music, get outside, yoga, music, get outside. Like, I would say generally move your body. It literally shifts your state.
Yeah.
Like they have found neurobiologically it shifts your mind state to just move into a different room sometimes.
Yeah.
And then music also they have found in our brain, and I like the science too.
Yeah.
Like I think our society does as well. But
for sure.
The music, it shifts you and it gives you something to create.
Yeah, that's very true.
Create something.
Yeah.
I would say that. But create something, whatever it is, make a new recipe, write a song, even if it's about like who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Like whatever it's about, like create something. That's our gift and our connection with like, you know, the spirit realm.
That's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. What about for people who are trying to balance wanting to do a bunch of stuff or if they have multiple passions or how do you find balance between the three? Or try to.
Oh my gosh, I know. Well, so I will say that like, man, so I have a big type A within me that has been tamed in the past really just few years. And that did result from trauma. So there's a resource from trauma that happened. But I would say for my three-pronged like business and like way of living life with music, yoga, and therapy, right? I guess do a little bit every day. Like, and I hate to say that because some people don't work like that. But even if it's just picking up the instrument for like 5 to 30 minutes or whatever it is, or just calling up a friend and being like, do you want to play a song? And then just like do a little bit so I don't forget about it. And then just consistently, like I have a morning routine with meditation and yoga. And I know, again, that's not for everybody, but have a time, and I journal as well, but have a time when you can like really connect with yourself and be like, what's important? Do I still like what I'm doing? Am I happy? How much time am I, you know, just thinking about those things in a gentle, and, you know, because I can get pretty type A, so I'm
for sure
checking myself with this. Not everybody is supposed to do all the things every day, but I do tend to do a little bit of each every day.
Yeah,
at least.
That makes total sense. Cool. So the last thing is where can people find you? You know, like social media, website, anything like that you wanna plug?
Definitely, yeah. So I actually have a new YouTube channel, Live Music Yoga with Alice, and I have like I think we have like 14 classes up there. So if you want to take class, and most Sundays from 12 to 1. It's been shifting a little. I'm taking a couple weeks off because we all need rest. But most Sundays it will be from 12 to 1 Central Time. And then I have a website, Alice Seitzer Therapy. And then I also have on Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is Alice in Wonderland 88. So if you want to find me there.
Awesome. The very last section is kind of just like a fun little like rapid fire round with like a couple questions that are just kind of random. Are you down?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So the first one, super easy, coffee or tea? Sometimes easy.
Okay, at this point, tea.
Okay, that makes sense. If you were a musical genre, what would you be?
That is a good one. I like to think about like just my influences and maybe just like what I like psychedelic jam, grass folk. But jazz too.
Yeah.
So it would be like a freaking fusion, like
That's
beast
awesome.
of all genres.
Yes.
Except for like yodeling, I don't get down with that so much.
Everything
but I
but
appreciate
yodeling.
yodeling. Or Gregorian chant or something.
Yeah.
But there's some cool modes.
Yeah.
So,
definitely. There's a, oh my gosh, what's the Mongolian throat singing?
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
That
My dad.
is so cool.
It's otherworldly. It's like,
Yeah, it's so, I have no idea how that's like physically possible.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite yoga asana?
Yeah.
Nice.
Ooh. Oh, I guess. Oh man, they all click together. I would say cat cow. Would
Yeah.
be, because that just gets everywhere. It's a good one.
That's a good one
And
for
I really
sure.
like down dog too. And
Yeah.
the simple ones, like honestly, because that calf stretch. How
Yeah.
do we go with that?
It's good. Okay, and then finally, what's something small that you do every day, or at least close to it, that you find essential to your mental health and well-being?
I would say that morning routine. Eddie will tell you that I am protected, and talk about safety and support. I need my morning time. So I do journaling, and I do some sort of movement, whether it's running or yoga, and then I meditate.
That's awesome.
It's pretty
Cool. Well, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
As always, you can find me at creatingwithimpact.com or on Instagram at creatingwithimpactpod. You can also check out Creating with Impact on Patreon at patreon.com/creatingwithimpact, where you can become a subscriber and get all sorts of extra content, including multi-passionate mini biographies for extra inspiration, personal shout-outs, live workshops, and PDF, music, and yoga downloads, just to name a few. If you have any stories or successes you'd like to share, or if you'd just like to get in on the conversation, you can email creatingwithimpactpod@gmail.com.